2023 has already got off to a rockin' start when it comes to horror movies. Scream 6, Evil Dead Rise, Megan, Knock at the Cabin are all just some of the big hitters that have dropped so far. But hold your horses, don't write your best of the year lists anytime soon, because 2023 has a whole host of potentially really good horror movies lined up yet to come. And with that in mind, I'm Josh from What Culture Horror, and these are the 10 most anticipated horror movies still to come in 2023. Number 10, Saw X. Starting this list off with a biggie, Saw X is so far down on it because we kind of have every reason to be cynical about a new Saw film. Spiral and Jigsaw were both disappointing restarts for the iconic franchise, but we do have reason to think that Saw X is going to be a return to form. That's because Saw X is bringing back both John Kramer and Amanda Young, aka Jigsaw's victim turned protege from the second and third film. Now, because Kramer and Amanda both met their end all the way back in that third movie, it will be curious to see how the murderers duo come back here, what role they'll play, and when the story itself will be set. As you can imagine, we have a lot of questions, but seeing those two characters return is undeniably exciting. And die-hard fans of the franchise will also be happy that Kevin Grutert, who directed 2 Saw movies and edited a whole bunch more, is on directing duties here. Now again, this appointment could go either way, as in my opinion, Kevin is responsible for both one of the best installments, that being Saw 6, and one of the most disappointing in Saw 3D. Still, let's stay optimistic for now, this really could be awesome. Number 9, Shelby Oaks. For many years, renowned YouTuber and film critic Chris Struckman has gushed over his love of cinema. So when he set up a Kickstarter for his own movie titled Shelby Oaks, it was kind of heartwarming to see the project raise quintuple its goal, making it the most funded horror film in the platform's history. And even if you're unfamiliar with the filmmaker in question here, the premise of Shelby Oaks does sound really intriguing. It centers around a woman named Mia who's trying to figure out what happened to her long-lost sister Riley. And it turns out that her disappearance has some kind of connection to Riley's imaginary friend who, I'm going to assume, turns out to not be so imaginary. Despite being an indie DIY production as well, it has courted a pretty powerhouse cast, including Keith David, Robin Bartlett, and Michael Beach. So yeah, this is one that both Struckman fans and regular horror movie fans alike should be keeping an eye on. Number 8, Insidious: The Red Door. It's been a while since we've seen the original cast of Insidious. The last 2 flicks left the story of the Lamberts behind, but they're back in the latest installment, The Red Door. In this flick, Josh's son Dalton is now all grown up and finds himself being plagued by demonic visions shortly after moving to college. So, to protect Dalton from this devilish entity, Josh is forced to reawaken his own repressed memories and dive back into the hell that he and his family went through in those early movies, and indeed Josh's own childhood. The first trailer for the movie is out now, and it looks pretty solid, to be honest, but the real reason why everyone is excited for this 5th Insidious movie is that it's the directorial debut of its star and all-around horror daddy, Patrick Wilson. The man is an absolute modern horror icon at this point, so it's going to be really interesting to see if he has what it takes to create the scares rather than just react to them. And hey, after Jordan Peele's Get Out, John Krasinski's A Quiet Place, and Zach Cregger's Barbarian, this might be another case of an actor turning into a really excellent horror director. Number 7, Talk to Me. Now here's the thing about Talk to Me. I actually had no idea what this was until I saw a trailer for it while I was seeing Evil Dead Rise. And honestly, it was so good, it might have been better than the film I just paid to see. And I loved Evil Dead Rise, so that's a big compliment. It's not like a backhanded thing about Evil Dead. From A24, this story follows a woman named Mia, which is quite frankly becoming one of the most popular names in the genre, by the way, who performs a supernatural seance that connects her to the other side. But unfortunately for her, when it's over, she accidentally leaves the spiritual door open, allowing a whole host of horrors to come through. Now the flick has already nabbed a whole host of excellent reviews, and the trailer itself, like I said, looks incredibly promising, packing in a load of scares even into that short runtime. I don't want to overhype this for myself personally, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that you can bet to see this turn up on a lot of end-of-the-year lists come December. Number 6, Thanksgiving. For many years, Eli Roth was known as a Brat Pack horror icon. But when the Hostel director made Death Wish and a house with a clock in its walls, many were worried that he might never direct a horror movie again. Maybe he had moved beyond it and wanted a bit of a change in his career. Well, fret not, because Roth is back this year with a horror movie that's actually been almost 2 decades in the making. And that movie is Thanksgiving, a slasher that sees a mass murderer venture to a small town where he prepares to create a holiday carving, you guessed it, made up of the victims that he slays. Originally cooked up to serve as one of the fake trailers in the Grindhouse project made up of Planet Terror and Death Proof, it wasn't long before fans were demanding Eli Roth make it into a full-length movie. And hey, that's worked for others that were in Grindhouse, so why not this one? Well, Roth did have every intention of turning that fake trailer into a real movie, but for years, the project just never materialized. Well, until now. Thanksgiving is set to be released, well, you can probably guess when it's set to be released. I'm not even gonna say it, come on guys, you know when it's gonna release. But that's pretty soon, so we can probably expect a trailer to drop pretty much any week now. Number 5, Salem's Lot. It's no secret that Stephen King adaptations have always been a little bit hit and miss. However, one that absolutely deserves another shot is Salem's Lot. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but here we are. Based on King's second book, this is his classic vampire story that already has an iconic mini-series adaptation for TV. Kind of like King's other work, It, now that I think about it. However, since then, unlike It, this classic has remained dormant for decades, even if this project has been stuck in development hell for a long, long time now. But whisper it, it seems like we're finally over those issues and Salem's Lot will indeed release this year. And with Annabelle and Swamp Thing writer Gary Dauberman overseeing the latest reboot, things are looking promising as well, especially since he also penned the script for the massively successful It. I've mentioned that movie a lot in this entry, but it's just the obvious comparison, isn't it? I mean, they've literally got the same writer, so hey, what am I supposed to do? Like I say, King adaptations are a dime a dozen these days, but this is Salem's Lot. You've got to do this well. Please, for me, do it justice. Number 4, Maxine. You have to admire Ty West. The guy wrote and directed 2 kinda risky horror movies during the pandemic, and then released them back to back. Those, of course, being X and its prequel Pearl, and both of them were hugely successful, with the latter in particular absolutely dominating online spaces. And after the surprise success of each, a third movie, Maxine, was quickly put into production and is set to release this year. This trilogy capper picks up with Mia Goth's Maxine Minx set 5 years after the bloody events of X, with our titular hero finding herself on the road to becoming a Hollywood actress. And although further plot details are hush-hush at the moment, it's probably safe to assume that Maxine's journey to Hollywood probably comes with a lot of murder on the side. And based on the phenomenal cast, which includes Giancarlo Esposito, Elizabeth Debicki, Bobby Cannavale, Michelle Monaghan, and Kevin Bacon, it looks like Ty West's X trilogy is going to go out with one hell of a bang. Number 3, The Last Voyage of the Dementer. Now, of all the premises and concepts on this list, this one is absolutely my personal favourite. Dracula adaptations generally have been done to death, and even though the Prince of Darkness is a cinematic icon, it's been a little while until he was truly relevant and, more importantly, truly scary. However, The Last Voyage of Dementor looks like it could be the best Dracula movie in decades, and yeah, apologies to all the Renfield fans out there. The flick itself explores Drac's journey to England, which is detailed in a single chapter of Bram Stoker's novel. The King of Vampires places himself in a cargo box and ships over on a boat called the Dementor. As the ship sets sail, Dracula starts feeling a little bit peckish, compelling him to get out the box and start picking people off one by one. And I mean, hell, can you blame him? Back in the olden days, it took ages to get anywhere on board. You would be absolutely starving if you were a vampire. Now, jokes aside, tell me that isn't a brilliant idea for an adaptation. That sounds like the best thing ever, right? I'm not just going crazy. I'm not overhyping this. That is incredible. Mwah, no notes. Even better, after the release of the latest trailer, it does look like this movie could do that premise justice, so fingers crossed that this is as good as it sounds. Number 2, The Boogeyman. Our second Stephen King adaptation on this list, The Boogeyman is thankfully not a remake of the terrible 2000s movie of the same name. No, this is the big mainstream break of director Rob Savage, who you might remember as helming the absolutely impeccable Host in 2020. Savage himself is undeniably talented, but it is going to be interesting to see whether he can play well with producers on a large picture like this, or whether some of those appealing edges and DIY sensibilities are smoothed over. Well, the trailer is out now and it does show a lot of promise, and in fact the movie itself was initially supposed to just hit streaming and not come to theaters, but previews were so damn good it's actually got that promotion and is now coming to theaters exclusively, at least for a little bit. So in the battle of Stephen King adaptations this year, The Boogeyman is certainly one to watch. Number 1, The Exorcist. No matter how much of a horror movie fan you are and how much you love The Exorcist, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, no surprise there. I think everyone was a little bit skeptical when it announced that the franchise was returning. After all, how many good Exorcist movies are there? You've got the first one, which is undeniable. You've got the director's cut, I suppose, if you would count that as a separate thing. And then you've got Exorcist 3, but even that one is kind of contentious, and some people don't really like it. FYI, I really do. Well, putting our optimism cap back on for a second, this movie really could be a nice, refreshing glass of Bovril. This time around, the reboot sees a child get possessed. Surprise, surprise, what were you expecting? Only this time, the child's father seeks out the help of Chris McNeil, whose daughter, of course, Reagan, was tormented by a demon many years ago. And before you ask, actor Ellen Burstyn is reprising her role, reportedly along with Linda Blair. The follow-up will also include many other talented actors, including The Handmaid's Tale and Dowd, Hamilton's Leslie Odom Jr., and Once Upon a Time's Raphael Barge. But the one element that has everyone talking and discussing this project isn't the cast or the premise or anything like that. It's the fact that it's being helmed by David Gordon Green. Yes, the recent Halloween trilogy's David Gordon Green, and I can only keep this optimism cap on for so long, so I don't want to go in too deep on what I think about this. So I think this is a good place to end this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below about David Gordon Green taking on The Exorcist and every other project I've mentioned here. And while you're down there, if you could, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't think I've been Josh, thank you so much. Check out all the other videos on What Culture Horror, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.